If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you about it. It's free, which is amazing. And there are these really cool creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you, so it's easy to be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts. And you get to make money with no minimum listenership, which is really cool. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started right away. Yoga teachers, mindfulness leaders, and energy workers, are you ready to stop side hustling and start making an income doing what you love? Welcome to the Marketing Off the Mat podcast. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we'll dive into conversations with successful creatives in wellness, business, marketing, and more to uncover practical methods to take you from A to B and have some fun along the way. My name is Jessica Cross, and I'm so excited to be here with you. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Marketing Off the Mat. This is Jess, and I'm so excited to be here with you today to share this chat that I had with my friend Tracey Pontarelli. Tracey is a former marketing and branding professional turned wellness entrepreneur and business mindset coach. Tracey has tapped into her love of wellness and skills as a brand marketer to build successful wellness business. Her key to success has been understanding the powers of attraction and marketing and positive mindset and being very intentional in everything that she does. Tracey now coaches frustrated moms just like her to build a successful online income without sacrificing their priorities by being authentic, deliberate, and magnetic. And it is such a great episode. You're going to learn so much from Tracey. Definitely take a listen and be sure to check out the show notes because she has some cool stuff coming up that she'd love to share with you there too. All right, let's dive in. Hey, Tracey, how are you?
Oh, I'm so good. Jessica, how are you?
Fabulous. Thanks for being here.
Oh, I'm thrilled.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I just knew when I came across you on Instagram and just seeing all of the amazing things that you're coming out with and putting out into the world that I just had to have you on the podcast. So I'm just thrilled. Thank you for taking the time. And I can't wait for people to learn a bit more about you and your story.
Oh, well, thank you. And thanks for making time for me because it's just really fun to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So let's start at the beginning. So
Okay.
tell us a little bit about you and your career journey and how it brought you to today.
Okay. So today I am an online wellness entrepreneur and I also coach other primarily female entrepreneurs, social sellers primarily. So anybody that's selling online, how to be more magnetic with their marketing and more intentional. And so my career started in marketing and public relations. So I worked in marketing and PR. I live in New York City. So I worked at firms for many years until I started to have kids and it really started to feel like I wasn't doing anything particularly well. If you kind of know that feeling where I thought I'm doing nothing to my full capability here. And so I really had a moment where I felt like something needed to give. And so I decided to stay home with my kids. And that was great. I mean, I love my kids. And yet I also really always considered myself someone who really loved to work. And so I never envisioned myself staying home full time with my kids. And so I was always looking for something that I could do that was my own, and eventually found my way back into fitness, which is something that's I've been super passionate about. I've been a personal trainer and exercise instructor on and off since I graduated college. And so I found my way back into fitness, and that led me to wellness, and that led me into the online space. And so I just, kind of kept following my passions and interests and just kept finding ways to build a business around it. And so I love that I'm able to offer that branding, marketing background to entrepreneurs because I think I uniquely bring that skill set to the table. So that's how I got here. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I can, I don't have kids personally, but I can so relate to being in that corporate setting where you're, you've got so much on your plate and you feel like you're not doing anything well. It's like you're failing a little bit at everything.
Yeah. And I feel like for a lot of women, there's a bunch of women who know that they'd want to stay home with their babies, right? They just know that they want to do that. And then there's women that would never stay at home. And then there's the rest of us that kind of fall in the middle. And, it evolves as you go. Like when my kids were super little, I was busy most of the time, but then I started to have these windows where I realized I could start to see how I could fit something in. So I think it's, we talk about stay-at-home moms and working moms, but it's really, there's so many shades in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think moms and women get put in boxes in general, and it doesn't, I'm sure that's a whole nother episode, but
for
but
sure.
Yeah, it can be both.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit about your branding and your marketing background. And I know from the work that you're putting out into the world, you're really passionate about marketing and specifically magnetic marketing.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So this is really, and I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, and Jessica, you could probably know a lot of people like this, when you start to build a business, it's a switch for a lot of people. So they go from doing something they love and then turning it into a business where they're marketing it to other people can feel really weird. And so what I really talking about with magnetic marketing is getting really clear. And I know you're a yogi, so you're going to love this, on your intention and your energy. And the idea of being magnetic is understanding that you are attracting something all of the time, no exceptions to the rule. And so either you're doing that on purpose or you're doing it by accident, and getting your energy and your clarity and your intention right is the name of the game. And once you've got that right, I think everything flows from there. And what I see a lot of entrepreneurs doing is almost letting the tail wag the dog, where they get like so caught up in, they need more followers, they need to have a thing. And they haven't stopped and said, okay, what do I uniquely bring to the table? And my doorbell's ringing now, Jessica, just like we said, what do I uniquely bring to the table? And what do I want to bring as value, and to whom do I want to bring it to? Like, get really clear. And that's where the magnet happens. So that's what it's all about. Yeah.
I love what you said too. It's like kind of in this entrepreneurial world where we see this like need for like massive numbers of followers, or you kind of chase that for a bit. And then you think, oh, I'm not putting out any offers. Let me just try a bunch of things and see what sticks. And people get confused and they're like, I don't know if I even want to follow you to begin with. So stopping for a moment and getting really clear about like, what do I want?
Yeah.
And what do I want to put out there that other people can resonate with? It's
right.
Just like you said, it's all like, if you're a yoga teacher, you're listening, you work in energy, that's like 100% your like jam. Like you totally get that.
Right.
And I love how you've kind of brought the marketing lens into that idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I'll say is as from a marketing perspective that I feel like entrepreneurs really struggle with is getting really clear on the person that they're talking to on the other side of the phone. Right. And I think the fear is you will miss out on an opportunity if you get too narrow focused. But if you're talking to everyone, to your point, you're talking to no one. No one knows that you're talking to them. And so that clarity of really understanding, if you're a yogi, who's the person on the other side? Get really like, imagine that person. Who is she? And then everything flows once you get the clarity. It's really amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And the whole premise of, when we try to speak to everybody, we speak to nobody.
Right.
Is especially, in the fitness world, in the yoga industry, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of fitness. There's a lot of yoga. And so you want to be being very clear about the energy that you're putting out there, so you attract that right fit client.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah.
Amen. I love it.
Amen.
So for the yoga teachers, the wellness pros, the energy
Yeah.
workers who are listening, like,
Yeah.
how does this work in practice? Like, what
Yeah.
would you say is like a step in this direction towards magnetic marketing?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you kind of a 3-step process
Oh,
a 3-step process for really identifying what your personal brand, because I think that's the key, is really getting clear on that personal brand. So if you're a yoga instructor or energy worker, I mean, amazing. And the world needs, first of all, just know that the world needs you and you bring enormous value. And so then really do an inventory of your passions, your gifts, your skills. What are the things that really, really light you up? And, kind of work through that list. So have a creative exercise where you work through that list and you get super clear on all of the things that you'd love to talk about, right? Like, what are your passions? What are your interests? What are your strengths? What are the things that people ask you about? What do people ask you advice about? What could you talk about for hours? Like, really get into your strengths, because that's what you want to leverage in your brand. You want to leverage your strengths. And then on the other side is what I call the avatar exercise, the dream avatar exercise. So really get clear, if it was one person that you could help, who is she, and what are her needs and desires and wants? And then you look for the overlap. This is where I call it the magnet in the middle. So if you can find the overlap, where the overlap is, that's where you stay in your brand. So to your point, so many people are just, throwing things up onto social media with no clear intention on what value does this bring and what do I want someone to feel or do or think because of it. And so once you get clear on that, then you can start to create some brand pillars to say, okay, I'm going to stay I call it the sandbox, right? So you're going to stay in the sandbox, and you and your dream avatar are playing in the sandbox, and you're only playing with toys both of you like. Right. So you're playing a bunch of games that both of you like. And if it doesn't really resonate to that one person, I say it becomes much easier to decide what to talk about and what not to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love the sandbox analogy.
Yeah.
And the toys could be like, you both have the same type of yoga mat.
Right.
Passionate about.
Yeah. And I mean, I think for yoga and energy, there's so much to share for people that, and this is, again, I'll just give you some examples. So are you trying to find someone that's a novice, right? That doesn't understand this work? Or are you looking for somebody that's really into the work and wants to go deeper, right? So those are two different people. And so you could really dig into what's important about, I forget what you call legs up the wall, but it's my favorite exercise, legs up the wall, right? You could like really dig into like what's so special about legs up the wall. You could really dig into different parts of energy and understanding alpha waves. And like, you could really get into that stuff. But if someone is a novice, it's going to go right over their head. So you just have to decide where are you playing, right? Where are you playing?
Yeah. That's so good, because what we were saying, there's so much, and it's great, so much yoga, so much energy work, so much fitness out there in the world. And the more that you can kind of get clear on what you want to put out and what excites you, which, like what you said, you could talk about all day long, legs up the wall.
Yeah.
Amen there. Like if you're feeling so passionate about that, you want to connect with, and you want to attract the type of client who's like, yes, that is what I'm looking for.
What you really want, particularly on, let's just use Instagram, you really want them to save it, and you really want them to share it. Right. So I would say, I mean, that's right. If you're really looking for what's going to create that really deep connection, is that they saved your content because they want to go back to it later. That's gold. That's what you're looking for. Right. I think also another mistake people make is they want to look good on social media, and whether or not, I mean, you look good is kind of besides the point. Is it useful to the other person is really the point. So if they save it and share it because they love it, that's when you know you're adding some real value.
Oh yeah. And value is the key. Absolutely. It's like you can put a pretty pose out
Mhm.
and a pretty face who's
Right.
doing it, and that's lovely.
Right.
But people remember value. They're
They
not going to
do.
remember that
They
pretty
do.
face.
They want to know how you're helping them. Right. And
That's what
so
we all want.
right. It is what we all want. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? Great. You look good doing that pose. What's in it for me? It's really,
Yep.
yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Or it might be like, well, that's definitely, that pose is so complicated. It is never going to be for me. So next, continue to
Correct.
scroll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So as I understand it, there's
Yeah.
there's different types of magnetic marketing. So how do we know what our personal type is, and how do we use it to our advantage?
Yeah. So I think it really comes back to what is your ultimate business goal online, right? And then you can kind of back into, because it really goes back to your intention. So, if you are a yoga instructor or energy worker, what is your goal? Is it to build your audience? Is it to sell a course? Is it to drive them to an online program? Is it to drive them into a studio? Like, that's going to change everything that you do and who you market to. And I mean, and there's so much real value for brick and mortar businesses to use Instagram, and you can be really creative and clever with, really getting super local in your outreach. So, I mean, it's just so many opportunities. It's really goes back to getting clear on where you are. And I think, some people are super sophisticated naturally with marketing. And so understanding where you are in that journey and being okay. This is again a great yoga analogy, being really okay with being a beginner, because you can add massive value by having a lot of beautiful simplicity to what you do online, and getting into authentic conversations and building deep connections with people, one person at a time. There's so many opportunities there. So I think it really goes back to the different types are, what kind of provider are you? Right? Are you just trying to enroll people into an ongoing course? Do you want them to buy a package? You've really got to back up and understand, what is it that you're ultimately trying to do?
Yeah, I love that too. So if we think about, what our offer is, and that
Yeah.
offer can change, by the way, you're not stuck,
Right.
but you need to pick one. You need to
Right.
pick a lane.
That's right.
And then offer, and then see, like, how do you feel about it? What's the response back?
Yeah.
Like you were saying about our local marketing for a brick and mortar yoga
Yeah.
studio, that's going to be so different than, let's say, a yoga teacher who is helping other yoga teachers build their businesses and she lives in Bali. Like, that's so different.
Right. Right.
So like figuring out your lane and,
Yeah.
and your ultimate goal, and at least like sticking with that for a little bit.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you, Jessica. I mean, we really overthink, like shifting. You can absolutely shift. You just need to know where you are right now. It's okay to try different things. It just, from doing it from a place of not knowing what you're doing doesn't work, right? If you're clear on what you're doing right now, it works. So you can always shift and introduce things and try new things. That's taking people on your journey with you. And that's great, right? Just need to know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to your point, knowing what you're doing, like it's,
Yeah.
and I have so much, I just also have so much compassion too for the people who we're talking about. If they're not super marketing savvy, or
right.
It's scary, or
it is.
They don't want to put their faces out on social media. Like, hey, I think we've all been there at some phase in our journey. So
right.
if you're just getting started and it's a big deal for you to start posting once a week, post, like just post, like start where you are. Like you said, know where you are.
That's right.
And then, as you begin to build momentum, you can start to see what's working for you, what's resonating with your clients, what's your insights on Instagram or those emails, like how those things are starting to land. Like you can gather information from there. So good. So Okay, you have so much experience in life and your career, and obviously in marketing and building your own business too. So this is one of my favorite questions to ask. So what is something, if you could go back in time and say, hey, Tracey, here's the secret into your business, or in a life lesson that would save you a headache or maybe a sleepless night or two, what would that be?
This is such a great question. I really feel like it's following your passions, really having the courage to, and it might not always be your main thing, right? I'm not saying like drop your day job and go, off to Bali, to your point, right? I'm saying keep your passions in your life and keep looking for opportunities to do more of what lights you up, because that's why we're here, right? And I know we all want to build thriving online businesses or thriving businesses, but the goal of life is to expand into the things that are our real talents and gifts in the world. And so often we ignore them. And so I think if we so it's two parts, it's stepping into our gifts and looking for ways to add value. I when I look back, the reason I've had such success was there were these moments in my life where I just poured in a lot of value without worrying about what was going to come back out the other side. And that is where the magic happens. If we're always looking for what we're going to get back, we just never are really in it. We're just never really in it. So if you just keep looking for ways that you can add value, and I hear this over and over again with people I admire, is when they look back, the opportunities came because they were in a space of doing what they loved and adding a lot of value.
It's so good. It's, it's just amazing advice, because when we just kind of open our palms and say, I'm doing this because I love it.
Yes.
This is where I want to be. This is what lights me up and, brightens my heart and my smile. And people feel that. That is felt.
They do. And energy. I mean, we know this, right? You're an energy, but I'm reading a book right now called Digital Body Language. I know. I'll send it to you. But it's about how energy is absolutely felt. It's felt in your words. It's felt. You can feel it behind the post. And I agree. And listen, when you're in a place of living into your passions and in service, you are in a state of joy. It just happens. And so oftentimes we pinch ourselves off from the things that make us the most happy because we get to our to-do list and we're comparing ourselves and we're worried that we're not moving fast enough. None of it, that's all made up stuff in our heads. None of it matters. None of it matters. And we all do it. But if you can, the minute you can find yourself back into service and in your passions, you're like back in the game.
Oh, that's so good. And isn't that why we're here?
Yes.
Life is so short. Like we're here to serve.
Jessica, it's so short. And really, I mean, if everyone just stopped and said, why, when you have these moments where you think, why am I wasting any of my energy on this? And just let it go as fast as you can and get back into a space where you're enjoying this brief, amazing, beautiful life that we've been given. I couldn't agree with you more. Yep.
I think I'm getting like a little teary-eyed. Yeah. I feel like if no one listens to anything else that we just said,
right.
Just rewind the past 30 seconds and listen to what Tracey had to share. Cause it's so true. And it's so right. And, they say that the days are long, but the years are short, or whatever that adage is. And I think it's so true. So it's, our lives are short. We're here to serve, and we're actually, when we're not serving, we are doing people out there who are looking for us a disservice. So.
Right. And we will stop serving because of fear of what other people will think, of if it doesn't work. And that is all all just stuff we make up in our heads. And if it doesn't work, who cares? It doesn't matter, right? Like it really doesn't matter. And you're right. We all know this because we all look back at our lives at the moments we were the happiest. It's not when we were grinding away at our lives. It just never is.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's just so true. It's when we stepped in and we said yes to that thing that was scary, that thing that was a little inkling in our stomachs and our chests that made us scared, and we just did it anyway. And those are the things that matter.
Yeah. So true.
Oh, so good. That's amazing advice. So, do you have any cool things coming up that we could check out?
Yeah, so I do. So I would say I'll tell everyone to just hit Instagram as the place to find this. So as we're recording this, I just finished a free personal brand challenge that anybody can take. And so I as we're recording this, I'm turning that into something that people can do over and over again anytime they want. So I did it at a specific time, but that will be available. So it's taking that 3-part process. I've got a workbook to go with it. And I just walk you through over a 3-day period from you figuring out your magnetic qualities, figuring out that avatar, and then putting it together. Ooh. And so, yeah. And then I've just launched my first round. So that will be available again soon as well, of the Magnetic Marketing Academy, where we really dig into these topics and the platforms and really just try to help social sellers really get intentional about how they show up on the different platforms, just in a really practical, easy, everybody can do it kind of way. So yeah, those are the big things. Those will be on my bio on my Instagram.
Amazing. And we'll include links too in the show notes for everybody to have access to. That's awesome. So, well, speaking of Instagram, tell me your handle and all that good stuff so we can follow you.
So I'm at Coach Tracey with an EY _P, Coach Tracey P. That's where you can find me. Yes.
Very good. Well, everybody, please go follow Tracey right now because she has amazing value and reels and great content and all of those things. You definitely want to be following her when she drops her next round of Magnetic Marketing Academy. It sounds incredible. So Tracey, thank you so much.
Oh, Jessica, thanks for having me on. You're amazing.
Oh, likewise. We're just going to have to do it again sometime and talk a little bit more.
For sure.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That chat with Tracey was so great. I'm glad that you guys were here to hang out with us and really dive into magnetic marketing. It is an absolute fascinating process. And I hope you enjoyed that chat as much as I did. So definitely go follow Tracey. She's at Coach Tracey with an EY _P over on Instagram. She shares incredible knowledge and wisdom over there. So definitely go give her a follow and send me a DM on Instagram if you enjoyed this chat. It's at jessicacross.co. I'd love to hear from you and see how I can serve in additional episodes. If there's any content that you're looking for, anything juicy that you'd love for me to cover, send me a DM. I'm always open to suggestions. All right, guys, have an awesome rest of your day. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Marketing Off the Mat podcast. I love hanging with you as we figure this thing out together. Do you have an idea or something to share with me? Send me a DM on Instagram at jessicacross.co and let me know what's on your mind. I'd be so grateful if you shared this with someone who could use this episode. And if you get a chance, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Catch you on the next episode. See ya.